Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and that's the 1989 Toyota pickup, and I think this is likely the most reliable pickup truck or vehicle that Toyota has ever made. So today we are going to do a quick review of it, finishing up with a drive at the end, and I'm going to share my thoughts on how this 89 pickup that's over 35 years old has held up. Currently, it does have an engine swap, a 3.4-liter V6 out of the first generation Toyota Tacoma. It also has around 300,000 miles on the odometer, and if you're interested, you could buy it at the Twin Falls Chevy in Southern Idaho for a little bit under $14,000. So today we're going to do a quick review of it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like this video if you get anything out of it and you want to see more old car reviews like this, and subscribe if you haven't already. Otherwise, let's dive right in. Back in 1989, this truck was assembled in Japan. The new Tacomas are made in Mexico, and this cost about $12,000. which in today's money is about $31,000. So I do think it's held its value pretty well, even at 300,000 miles. But also back in the day, this competed against the 5th generation Toyota Hilux in some of the non-United States markets. And these trucks are made popular, not just for their reliability, but also for being featured in Back to the Future and How to Kill a Toyota in the Top Gear series, which, spoiler alert, they didn't kill it. These things were basically indestructible, and I'm not surprised because the basic engine, either the 4-cylinder or the 6-cylinder 3-liter that this came with, were overall pretty decent. As long as you kept up with your maintenance, these things could last a long time, which is why now, 35 years later, they're still worth quite a bit of money. This also comes from an era when functionality over form mattered. That's why it's a compact truck with a tiny little cab and a 6-foot 1-inch bed. So it's a very functional truck. And while not focusing on the form, trying to look good, looking aggressive and tough, I think this actually did a pretty good job in that department, just because it is so functional. You'll notice how much of the truck is the bed, because overall the vehicle is only about 14.5 feet long, so nearly half of this truck is bed. You could also get these in an extended cab, but when we do look at the 6-foot 1-inch bed, look at the sides of it. The sidewalls are super thin. Probably won't hold up very well in an accident, but you're really maximizing the cargo capacity and the storage. And then this also comes from an era where you have 3 separate keys. So you have one if you have a toolbox, one to open the door, and then the one with the black to start the ignition, which I wish I filmed the cold start on camera. This thing fired right up, but it also has a dual sliding rear window. Huge, basically opens up to about 1/3 of the overall surface area. Something that the new trucks with their tiny little windows just can't compete against. It also has probably about 9 inches of ground clearance, I would speculate, between the ground and the bottom of the rear diff. And you can tell that this one does not have any rust, or not really for how old it is, which is kind of funny because some of the newer Tacomas have even had rust. And then while this looks very proportionately fantastic, it's actually not as big in person as you'd expect. Walking up to it, it is only about 5.5 feet tall, and these tires are only 31.2 inches. That's because it's a 235, 75, 15, and check it out, even though it has the newer engine, it still has manually locking hubs. Something that I've never had to do in the winter because this truck is just a couple years older than I am. But honestly, it looks like you could fit a bigger tire under this. It has the bull bar, you know, if anyone gets in your way. And then it even has the old Toyota in the emblem. One of the best looking grills that I have ever seen. But as we come to open up this door panel, you're gonna notice quite a few things. It's basically red leather and red upholstery everywhere. The whole interior of this vehicle matches the exterior, with the exceptions of the rip, exposing the innards of these seats, and also some of the duct tape. But look at that, you have your tire jack, your tools in the back, where you actually have some cargo capacity, and then it's just sheet metal. It's not even insulated. There is thankfully a little bit of insulation on the door, other than where the holes are. But honestly, the handle, the rear, or the roll down windows, they work really well. And if I haven't mentioned already, which I know I haven't, I used to own a regular cab Tacoma, a 2nd generation. It had those same type of windows. It had a same 5-speed manual transmission. It even had the same similar type of locking doors, which is really cool. But the interior of this, for 35 years old, it's not perfect. It could use a new bench seat. It could use a couple $1,000s to completely redo it. And, you know, hopefully to repair the dashboard, because this comes from an era where they used to crack. But honestly, everything works on it. The tach, the speedometer, all the gauges actually work. The turn signals, the lights. This one even has cruise control, which I have not yet experienced, but at the end of this video, I will show you some of that driving around. And here, take a listen. Sounds pretty good. You guys can probably tell that this is a pretty solid little truck, but it is a compact truck. So when you are sitting in the seats, it is very tight. Look at how low the roof is compared to how high it is because of all the body ground clearance. So when you do get in here, it quickly becomes a very tight experience. But let me show you what this thing sounds like when you start. There we go. And look at how close together the pedals are. Very small like foot box for this vehicle. We're in neutral. The e-brake is on. Fires right up. Honestly, this is pretty cool. This even comes from an era where you have a cable. Open up the throttle body under the hood, and it's glorious listening to the MagnaFlow exhaust on this V6 engine. But overall, everything lights up. Everything works. It's really cool how well this build was done. I'm sure it was done quite a while ago, but honestly, this is a fun little truck to drive. Everything shakes. It feels fantastic. I probably wouldn't want to be in an accident in this because everything about this vehicle is extremely thin. I feel like I'm sitting in a tin can. But if you want the most reliable truck in the world, you have to make some sacrifices. Anyways, I think I've rambled on long enough. Let's take this on the road. I'll show you a couple minutes of how it drives and we'll finish the video up with that. But if you got anything out of this video today, please give it a big thumbs up. Comment your thoughts and opinions below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to buy this one, it's at the Twin Falls Chevy in Southern Idaho. Hopefully it's still there by the time you watch this video because these don't usually sit around for too long. Anyways, we'll get to the driving impressions. Thank you so much for watching this video. Driving this over 35-year-old Toyota pickup is quite the experience. There's basically no noise insulation. This 3.4-liter V6 actually sounds pretty good. The clutch engagement is actually at the very top of the pedal, kind of like the manual transmission Tacomas I've had in the past. So that is kind of interesting. Super long throws, the shifter wobbles around, and honestly, the steering's pretty loosey-goosey. You have to turn it quite a bit before you start going anywhere. But I'm having a blast. Sure, this might feel like a tin can experience. Sure, this might feel like the least safe vehicle I have ever driven. Plus, at only 5'11", I'm already too big for this vehicle. It doesn't appear that I can slide the bench back any further. But honestly, guys, driving past the cornfields, past the tree line, this is a pretty fun experience. And honestly, it's a lot different than I expected. Like a lot of other older vehicles, the visibility is actually good because this vehicle wasn't designed to look big, bold, and tough and aggressive with a flat-faced hood and a really aggressive front end that sticks out for forever. So the hood actually slopes down. It's a little bit curvy. The windows are large. You know, this isn't focused on noise insulation, so you can actually get some good glass in here. And when the turn signals work, the horn works. Sounds very high-pitched, very fun and fitting for this old vehicle. And let's see, if I go into neutral, can I get back into second gear pretty easily from a rolling start? Yep, seems like we can. It's okay to rev match. It's just tough because the clutch engagement, again, is at the top of the pedal. Let's rev this thing out just a little bit. Of course, I do want to be pretty careful on this old girl. She's lasted this long. Let's let her last another 35 years or so. But honestly, this is a pretty interesting vehicle. It does come from a time when all the dashboards were very cracked. You had to have a dashboard cover. That's usually what you think of as an old man truck these days, but honestly, they made sense. They were there for good reason. Side mirrors are flimsy. Honestly, after taking this through the car wash, they just flopped all around and I had to fix their orientation again. But honestly, this is a pretty fun experience. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you got anything out of this video, please consider liking it. Comment your thoughts and opinions below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want this one for under 14 grand before you even reference Automotive Anonymous, check out the Twin Falls Chevy. They often have some really cool finds. Thank you guys so much. See you on the next one.